Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. We know that you are rocking the love. That's what we're here to do. That's who we are. We are Robyn and
And I'm Gil, and we're happy to be here today. Excited to have the opportunity to hang out with everybody, and particularly each other.
Hi,
I'm
honey.
I'm coming from your live studio in New Mexico, and Robyn's joining us from the suddenly, finally, somewhat dry Oakland today.
Northern California.
Yes.
So we are apart but together in our heart.
Hmm. Well, that rhymed. That was impressive.
I'm cool like that.
You're cool like that. Okay. Well, we just want to invite all of you who are joining us to please let us know that you're here. Put something in the comments. Also, if you're enjoying the show, make sure that you subscribe to our channels and do that kind of stuff. And ask questions, make comments, throw tomatoes, whatever you'd like to do. Just participate. We love the participation. It makes it fun. So we're happy you're here, and we do it because it's fun for us, and it makes us explore some stuff, and we get a chance to talk with you. So,
Not for the big bucks.
not well, yeah. I do it for the big bucks.
Money, money, money. Yep, that's what we're about. No,
Yeah,
kidding. So,
yeah. When does that check come? Your residuals from way back are way better than this.
he's making fun of me because I get checks for acting for like a penny and 32 cents and $11.94. And he thinks that's funny, but it is a penny and 32 cents more than I had before.
It's true.
That is the point of this game. Because I can't make another dollar without having that penny.
That's right.
So
That's
don't
right.
put it down. There you go.
I picked up a penny from the ground this morning for exactly that reason.
Good.
Because I said, okay, it's just a penny, but hey, it's a penny, and I shouldn't be ignoring it.
That's right. I
So,
think it's weird when people walk over money, like because it's only a penny. I
yeah.
think to me that just always feels like disrespectful somehow.
Well, I'm pretty sure it all comes down to our relationship with money.
Well,
and
with
and that
everything.
relationship reflects in our other relationships and how we ignore, quote, the small things because we think they're not important.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it all comes down to the same stuff all the time.
All the time. That's funny you say that. And I'm sure you've heard her say it. But one of the ministers here where I am, Reverend Tammy, always stands up and reminds us that when she teaches class, she tells people, there's one answer. And if there's a question, you're not sure of the answer, just say oneness. It always comes back to oneness. However you look at it, whatever the question is, whatever the problem is, whatever the thing is, it comes back to oneness. That's the answer. And I thought, well, that's pretty good. That's pretty much true.
Yeah.
It's pretty much true. That's what it is. And that's what we talk about here on Rockin the Love, is the fact that relationship is about being in that space of oneness with ourselves and with our families and friends and communities and with our things and our, all that.
Yes, even when we don't want to.
Even when we feel like we don't do a very good job of it,
Yes. And so just so you all know, we know that last week we told you we were having our guest, Annette Martinez, on, and she is not here this week.
She wasn't able to make it, wasn't able to join us today. So
hopefully we'll see her in the next couple of weeks. But so we are switching our topic, which we talk more about animals and sea life and oneness as we know it. um, to uh, keeping it real. We're
Keeping
gonna
it
do
real.
relationship work here. Woohoo! Oh God! Had I known that, I would have gone to bed earlier, gotten a better night's sleep. Relationship,
Yes.
because that's what it's about, is
Yep.
relationship. And
And
go ahead.
I was just going to say it's about keeping it real. Um, and frankly, for me, the thing about this topic is that it comes out of this idea that we said our year is about living out loud. And I realized that can't live out loud if I'm not keeping it real. I mean, the more I bottle in, the more
Right.
quiet, the more subdued I have to keep myself, and then pretty soon, you know,
Yeah, you're keeping it inside. It's not
yeah,
real. You're
yeah,
holding it back.
yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about that a little later. But first, here's the good news.
Ah, what
What
you
do you got?
got? You
No.
ready for me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I don't know. My good news is kind of interesting. I mean, one, I just wanted to note that on the 15th, just a couple days ago, um, it was the 14th anniversary of the Miracle on the Hudson when the airline landed on the Hudson River and everyone stepped off of the plane and everybody was fine. And I bring that up as good news because, you know, we always think that 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 tragedy is out there and that's what we get to see, but the reality is there's a whole lot of times when mistakes turn into or unforeseen things turn into something that works out because people stay in it and stay in the moment. And that's my sense of what happened in that you had some very professional pilots who stayed in it and didn't didn't bail in their minds or physically, either one, but kept their heads in the game. So anyway, that's one of mine. um Let me see. Okay, so here's some good news. The good news is that none of you were working in the Tahoe convenience store near Lake Tahoe, California, where for the last couple of days they've had a bear that keeps coming in and grabbing candy bars and eating them.
The good
Those.
news that none of us were there.
None of us were there. That's right. You know how they have those automatic doors? Doors, the bear walks up, the door opens, and starts to come in. Well, apparently, they've often seen him in the parking lot, chased him out once in a while, but came in. The workers kind of headed toward him a little bit. The bear was like, and the guy was like, okay. He came in, grabbed some candy bars off the shelf and ate them and then left. But then he came back the next day with another worker who was there and did basically the same thing.
That's hysterical. I mean, it's in the long run, it's probably really not good that they're so
No.
socialized with people nowadays. I mean, because we saw when we were in Lake Tahoe, they were walking down the street. I mean, if you were walking down the street, they were too. They were going to pass you, or they were going to do whatever they do, and they were very calm. And then you had bears at your house.
Yeah, in New Mexico.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
New Mexico,
bears
they
that came into the backyard on numerous occasions.
opened the gate or took it
Tore
down.
the gate down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tore the gate down and came in for apples and came back for a couple of days. So I mean, it's really not good. It's good in like a Disney movie way, like so sweet and cute. But I mean, it's really not good that they're having to go into the real world for all this
Yeah.
stuff.
But I think for me, some of the good news in that is, you know, animals are very smart, very smart, and we don't give them credit, you know?
Oneness.
Oneness. Oneness. That's right. So I thought that was kind of a funny story.
It is. That's very
Um,
cool.
Yeah.
So my stories, I also have two. I have yeah. So here we go. One is about a man who broke into a school and saved 20 people in a blizzard in New York, in Buffalo. And he broke, when I say he broke into a school, he broke into the school for refuge, and he saved 20 people from being out in their car and in the world. And he broke into the school. He brought these 20 or 24 people in, and went around the school, found blankets in the nurse's office, and juice and
Pizza
granola.
in the cafeteria.
No, not that serious. But I mean, he was able to get them out of their cars, and actually, and two dogs, and and shelter them until the storm passed. And then they literally cleaned it up, like, so that nothing looked like it had happened. And went on their way when it was safe. And the cool thing was that the Buffalo Bills recognized him and thanked him for his act of heroism, and went and gave him two Super Bowl tickets to enjoy the Super Bowl. And Thurman Thomas, a former Bill, personally delivered to him and surprised him, and said that it was such a heroic deed and that he was their hero. And it's
Wow.
just cool. I mean, it's like, that's a big undertaking in that kind of a storm. Yeah, well, period. But to do that.
What? Yeah,
For,
I think the good news in there is here's somebody who is living out loud. He's like, here's a situation, here are my choices, I got to do it, and could have easily made a different choice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the other thing, though, I think that I mean, I know it's a big deal, but like, just the fact as a community that people are connecting and taking notice like that the
Yeah.
football team goes, yay, you're our hero. I mean, I think that's important. I mean, two Super Bowl tickets is nothing to them in the big scheme of thing, and it's huge, to
Hey,
someone else, just as a token of somebody's esteem. So that's that was my big good news. My other good news was that the researchers have found that gardening could help reduce risk of cancer and boost metabolism and health, and bring communities together.
now
And
is that assuming you're not using Roundup? Is that okay? I'm sorry.
it's okay. It's okay, Shucky. Um, yeah, yeah, and just I think that's great. And it's talking about scientists say that it also leads, of course, to eating more fibrous fruits and vegetables, and exercising more, and connection, and that it can ease the stress and anxiety, and lower risk of various illnesses. So I think that's great, because people like to garden and get their hands in the dirt. And I think knowing that something like that is, you know, supporting them in that way, I think that's an amazing find.
Well, again, it all goes back to oneness, and when we're connected with our world, it tends to shift things. I just talked this last Sunday about sound and singing our song, and the fact that our cells are singing, and they're either something that's harmonious or something that's disharmonious, depending on what's going on in the body and what stress level a person is at. So I'm saying all that to say, it's important to connect to the things that are working in our world, like nature and things like that.
Right. But so since you said that, you're saying all that, but can you say it a little clearer so people really understand? Because you're giving an overview, and I think it's, that's a whole show in itself.
Well,
So
that's true.
I think,
Well,
go ahead.
so the short version is just that using a particular type of, I don't remember what kind now in this moment, microscope, they're able to actually see and determine what the cells are emitting. And they're emitting sound. And this sound either is a harmonious sound among a variety of cells, or it's a very disharmonious cacophony. And they can relate that to whether there's issues, in the cell. I mean, issues, yeah, that there's something wrong going on, and they're putting the word out, if you will, or whether the person who contains those cells is stressed or having issues. I mean, all those things are tied together. And when but that can change when you bring in other cells that are vibrating at the higher frequency, if you will. They would support those that are in that disharmonious state, moving towards a harmonious state. So
Did I say short version? So the short version is your body plays music. That within you there's a song, right?
Yes.
That depending upon your mood, it plays music. And and we had heard earlier also that they had done studies that when people die, they would go into their cells, and like if you'd lived a happy life, there was an up tune, there was a happy, a melodic, harmonious tune. And if you'd lived a dreary life or a sad life, your cells played like a dirge, right? Or like something that
minor
was
keys
dissonant.
and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's so fascinating because, again, talking back to oneness. Oh, Reverend Tammy, we are honoring you today. But back to oneness, it's like when we're happy, we feel like dancing, we feel like singing, we feel like humming or whistling, or you know what I mean, and that you can feel that in your body. So I think that is fascinating.
It is.
So gardening clearly probably has those same effects, as like you said, being happy, being one with the earth, playing in mud and taking you to that harmonious feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of that is taking us to that place of positivity, if you will, that place of appreciating and etc.
Right.
I just saw a thing where there's a guy who's been delivering the mail for 70 plus years. Yeah, he's the longest running employee of the Postal Service, but made me think back to it when you said that, because clearly he's had a positive attitude about his job. Or, he wouldn't still be there, or wouldn't still be alive, if you will. Just,
70.
and I think that's quite amazing.
Yeah.
Quite amazing.
Amazing.
Well, everybody out there, thanks so much for being with us today on Rockin the Love. We're inviting you to chime in, tell us what you're thinking. I think we're going to move pretty quickly to our topic. And
we're going to move to our commercial. Afterwards, we'll talk about our topic, which you don't want to miss. I'm sure it will be. I'm not sure what it'll be, but I'm sure it'll be interesting because we're going to delve into our relationship and how you may have similarities and where to go from there. So, oh, dear God, grab something to drink and send us a prayer, and we'll be right back here on Thought Media Network.
back right here on Rockin the Love today. I'm Gil,
And I'm Robyn.
and we are excited to be with you this Wednesday, whatever time of day it happens to be for you. I guess you could even be on a different day. I don't know. Are we in a place where they could be in a different day at our time? Yeah, we are. So, anyway, thank you so much. We're happy you're here. And I just wanted to note, hello, Reverend Sherry Lynn. Uh, Gardening is relaxing. I love seeing life in action. We were just talking a little bit about gardening and the benefits. And as Sherry knows, our mutual good friend Cynthia, who worked with me with youth, says, I just love to play in the dirt. Whatever I can do to play in the dirt makes me happy. So,
Well, and I think both of those things are a great segue because how often is it that relationships are like playing in the dirt? And it's really life in action because
life
it's
in action.
real, it's raw, it's dirty, it's can be messy, and yet hopefully if nurtured it grows, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there we are. Here we are. So
So, our theme today is keeping it real. Um, we've declared that our theme for the year is living out loud, kind of following the CSL theme for the year loosely, but that basic idea. And it occurred to me that if we're living out loud, we have to keep it real, or we will get stuck and we won't be able to be living out loud anymore. Does that make sense to you?
it makes sense to me.
And where do we do that? As you just mentioned, in our relationships. How do we keep them real? How do we, if we're really living out loud, we're going to be pushing some boundaries. We're going to be inviting people to go places they weren't planning to go. And we have to figure out how to do that with love and grace and not run people over, even if we have to go around them. So that's all kind of the bigger picture. And then of course, in our primary relationship, oh my gosh, there's all kinds of things we could talk about around that.
Yes, there is. So, I mean, and I think that that's what's really important because we probably should do a total reveal right now.
Okay.
A total reveal for the people. People, those of you that know us, those of you that don't, we fight.
No. I
we
didn't know
do.
that.
We fight. We have fights. We are not always harmonious and loving and singing an uptune in ourselves.
Yes, that is true. That
So
is true.
um, we we don't fight physically. we only fight verbally. But I mean, we do. We have disagreements. We have arguments. We have um, really hot moments, right? I mean, hot in the angry way, not in the sexy way. We have those too, but we have them in the angry way. So we're going
Yeah.
to talk a little bit about what you do and what do you do in relationships when that happens, and how do we move through and into the next step. Go ahead and talk.
How do we do that? Well, um, you know, I think what I wanted to bring up, or what's coming up for me, is we have to go to a place of owning our stuff and um, and being able and willing to say, okay, you're right, I was wrong, or I messed up, or um, I could have done that better. I wanted to do it better, whatever. Uh, but that's not always easy to do. and certainly not easy to do in the moment, for me anyway.
And I'm not even sure. I mean, maybe, I guess this is a point of conversation, but I'm not even sure about the you're right, I'm wrong point. I don't, it's not, I think that's when all the arguments and everything happens, is when someone has to be right. I don't really think it's about being right. It's about understanding where each other's coming from and what's going on.
Yeah, I was thinking more in the sense of, when someone says, well, that that didn't feel good to me, or I didn't whatever, and I'm thinking, well, I didn't do anything to hurt you. That wasn't my thing. Well, I don't know why you're. And the other side of it is, you know what? I'm sorry that it came that I wasn't thinking about that for you. And I have to own that what I said may have been hurtful or may have been whatever. And that is where this idea of taking ownership and being real, keeping it real, happens.
Okay. I'm willing to hang out there for a minute. I'm not sure. I'm a little stuck on when you said something about, it went out of my head. Doesn't matter. You said something about for you, how I made you feel, or so. I don't know what you said, but you want to say something more about it?
I just wanted to say sometimes you're in a situation where someone else reacts or has feelings around a situation you're in, and I want to get defensive and go, hey, that's just how it is, blah blah blah. I didn't do anything. I didn't come here to do that, whatever. And that's not really helpful usually. I mean, if I'm going to be standing in the truth of living out loud, then I need to go, hey, I acknowledge that didn't feel good to you, and I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, and I guess,
and perhaps there was a better way I could have done it. There you go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it's okay. I hear that, but what I'm not hearing in that is when you go straight to the for you piece, like it's not, I'm sorry that didn't work for you, that didn't feel good to you. I'm baffled, because what about you? Like if you just stayed with you, how does that make you feel that your actions made someone else feel like that? I mean, to me, I'm not saying it's not about the other person, but for me, first, it's about acknowledging, like, wow, I never meant for anyone to feel like that. What did I do? How could I have done that differently? Or what did I do that contributes to that?
Well,
Yeah.
I think you're just expressing it better, personally.
Oh.
I mean, I think my thoughts around it line up with what you're saying a lot more than it sounded like when I said it.
Okay.
But that's part of the thing is I have to go in and own, oh, wow, what could I have done differently? How I don't like it when I hurt. I don't, that's not my intention, and that's what I wanted, not what I want to do. And therefore, what do I need to learn from the situation? Does that sort of line up more with what you were saying?
Sort of.
Okay.
But it also, I mean, I think the first step is you have to acknowledge that it's real. Because a lot of times what I've noticed in you, and I don't want to, I mean, I want to use these points. I don't want to necessarily, well, I want to use these points, but I'm not trying to call you out that much yet.
Oh yeah, with only a little over 20 years of marriage, we don't want to call it out too much.
No, but I'm not trying to blame you. What I was saying is, like, I don't know. Go on. Just speak.
Well, I just
Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was going to say, I want to acknowledge, I mean, a lot of times one has to acknowledge that something has happened. Like a lot of times when we're in a situation, I find myself defending that it happened. Like you'll be like, I'll be like, oh, that I'm making this up. So, that really hurt my feelings. And you'll be like, well, what do you mean? Why that shouldn't have hurt your feelings? Blah, 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 blah. And you'll tell me all the reasons that it shouldn't have hurt my feelings, but that doesn't mean that it didn't hurt my feelings. So like, I think first you have to acknowledge no matter what you think about it, whether you believe it, whether you think that's silly, whether you think it's, infantile, whether you think the person should be further ahead in their thinking, like just that it happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing is that you said something really important, and that is that space of just not even acknowledging that it happened, that anything happened, because I didn't do anything that could have created the situation. This situation is all in your head. It's all you. It's got nothing to do with me, you know? And I think that's the space where I can get caught, particularly when I'm frustrated in that space. And that space isn't helpful, and it doesn't support anyone else in growing, and it certainly doesn't support me in growing. So that's one of the things that I want to think about in terms of keeping it real, moving forward, keeping it real. Like, oh, whew, that didn't go the way I wanted it to, or that person didn't feel like it went the way I wanted it to. So I better look at it.
And I will say, since you are here, you are my partner, I think that, as I think about how you react to things sometimes, like for you, it's a very specific reaction because is your brain is a doer. It thinks it out.
Mm.
It wants to reason it out, and so you figure out the reasons why that doesn't make any sense, and how could that possibly be, and that wasn't my intention, and why didn't she understand it, and why is she saying, so like all kinds of things take over in your brain, um leading you to that place of going, of ignoring it because it doesn't make sense to you.
Mm-hmm. So, Sherry shares, I understand that. I said something to someone who at the moment did not respond, but who called me back later to let me know she did not agree with me and she was offended. I told her I did not mean to offend her. Then I proceeded to explain to her my situation around it, the way it shows up in my life. That's yeah. I did not use her in the explanation. I think she understood then. I hope you can understand this. Yeah. Well, we get the idea for sure, Sherry. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. When someone comes back to you and says, "Well, that didn't feel good," and and I hear Sherry, because then I'll go in my brain and I'll go, "Well, let me think. Why did I do that? What was that about?" Oh, well, let me give you all the justifications. And I'm not saying that's what you did, Sherry, but that's what it made me think of when you said, I didn't mean to offend her, and kind of explain yourself. For me, when I explain myself, I've got to explain why we shouldn't be in this situation, instead of acknowledging that I may not have communicated well, or maybe we don't agree, or whatever the deal is.
And Sherry says the way God shows up in my life.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I've had that happen. I've been in places outside of our relationship where something shows up, and I have to, if I'm really honest, I have to go, well, what role did I play in that? This person is not happy, not feeling taken care of, not feeling appreciated. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you know, I did this, I did that, I did the other thing, but that doesn't acknowledge that, you know what? I should have figured it out and made sure that I knew where we were at. And I think that's something that in a primary relationship, like, a partnership like we have, that can get difficult to always go to that place of, well, I really should make sure that Robyn understands what I'm doing or thinking, or that she gets it. Because instead, I tend to get out the hammer and try to pound it in
Well,
so
and
that
I
you
think,
understand it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think being in a relationship, um, not only a love relationship, but any kind of relationship, friendship, whatever. I think that, um, there's steps and there's guidelines and there's things you learn about somebody. Like I know relating to you is different than relating to my best friend. I know
Mhm.
who needs to take a pause first, who needs to hear certain things to feel safe enough to have the conversation, or to know that they're being heard, or to know that they're supported, in that way. Yeah. And I think that, like, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's so challenging because in the moment, in the heat of a relationship, like, probably somebody needs space, if not both people. And yet,
Mhm.
the last thing people want to do is give it space. I mean, I know men and women are different. I know y'all love space in a whole different way than we do. But it, you want to have that room to talk about it and be real. So Sherry says, the funny thing about it, I don't even remember what I said. However, the lesson I learned is to be present always, especially when speaking with someone who is in pain.
Keeping it real, being present, being in the moment. Those are all things that support us, I believe, in keeping it real. Being right there, being open to what's happening in the moment, and I think that's part of what gets interesting or difficult, if you will, in a relationship is we I pile on all of my past experience in the relationship with that with you into this moment, and so I'm not present in this moment. I'm making judgments about all the things that have happened before instead of being present right now. And I think, if I'm going to live out loud and be fully present to myself, I've got to be present to other people right now.
So here's where the the rub comes for me. I think relationship is about compromise. I think that I've learned a lot of things about how you do things, and I've learned to deal with them, even though that's not necessarily the most comfortable choice for me. So, we have an argument. I'd prefer to settle it right there. I'd prefer for it to end with you saying, oh my God, I love you so much. I can't live without you. And we'll be together for the next 100 years, and moving on. You prefer to take space and to to go away and to do whatever you need to do, and then you come back as if nothing has happened, and
Mm.
that all is well. And so I, I'm interested in, like, the baby steps in between, because I feel like, all right, so I've learned to, you know, navigate the space a little and navigate different things that are needed. And yet it doesn't feel, I don't necessarily feel like I'm always being taken care of in that way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not
So,
perfect.
so how does
Absolutely.
one move to a different, how, I mean, how do we do it differently, or how?
I think part of it is the keeping it real and staying in communication. Um, Sherry Lynn said, "I'm learning to pause and respond, not react." Uh, I think that's really important in a relationship, anywhere, is to really pause and be, and then respond, not just, say what the first thing that comes ready, ready to come out of your mouth, like, whatever it is. But we all have those moments when, wow, if we'd said what first came up for us, that would have been ugly. And it's not that maybe there wasn't a feeling of frustration or anger or whatever when we heard something, but when we pause and give it a minute, we can process it. And maybe that's not really what it is. Maybe that just touched something in us that caused us to go there. And if we really pause, we can find what's real.
Sherry says relationships can be tough. Being single, I think about being in a loving relationship. And then there are times I'm so happy with I am with myself. Amen. Well,
Amen, sister. We hear you.
it's no, but it's interesting you bring that up, because right now, while Gil and I are living apart, we're by ourselves. I mean, we're still in a
Yeah.
relationship, and I'll tell you, you know, I'm I'm pretty much, I think, the way you see me on here. I'm pretty chill. I'm pretty mellow. I'm pretty go with the flow. However, the other day I hung up on Gil because I couldn't listen to him anymore. I was like, oh my God, he's just droning on about things in a way I don't want to hear about them. And I had already expressed this, and I had tried to tell him otherwise. And I was like, I'm done. I got no more, and it's not necessarily the way I thought was the expert way to handle the situation, but I said it was the only way to handle the situation, to pause and give him space. I didn't need to be like, yeah, you want to say something? You're shaking your
Yeah, that I actually have been thinking about bringing that situation up and complimenting you, because in fact, you just gave me space.
yeah.
I mean, that just gave me space to go, oh, and get through whatever my angst was, and to then go on to the next thing, you know, because we weren't communicating well. And I was frustrated, and I didn't feel like you were hearing my frustration, and you didn't feel like I was understanding you at all.
Right.
Um, and yeah, I sort of glossed over the fact that you hung up on me, but I I just sort of took it as, well, it was a little abrupt, but
Sometimes the girls just got to go. I was, you know, and not that it was the way I wanted it to be. I thought about calling you back. I thought about texting you. I thought about saying, I didn't mean to hang up on you, or don't take it personally, or whatever. But then I was like, no, because whatever we were talking about and wherever we were, it was like I felt like I needed some acknowledgement from you as well, as to the conversation. And I'm going to say your behavior, but it's not really your behavior. It was, I mean, your tone and the way you were saying things, and it's not like you behaved badly, but you get that tone.
Tone.
Tone. Yeah. So yeah. So the question becomes, um, how do we take care? How do we both take care of ourselves? How do I take care of you while taking care of me? How do we, how do we do that and make it work? Sh- Sherry says, I agree, Robyn. Taking care of yourself while letting him take care of himself. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, and I think this is in every relationship. It's almost like in every relationship, you need to have a safe word. That means like, I still love you. I'm here for you. I gotta go. We can't
But
talk.
leave me the F alone.
Leave me alone. Yeah, exactly. So, um,
Yes, I agree. I mean, I feel like that. I think that's a very interesting. Maybe we need to implement that somewhere along the road, as a way to support one another in pausing before we
well,
react.
and then I think coming back to the situation, and I know we did a show on this, and I can't remember, but those there were those 5 questions to ask each other when like
Oh
uh,
yeah.
when we got back together, and I can't remember. Oh, bad
We'll
podcast.
look it up.
Yeah, but it's like you coming back together, asking, or acknowledging the other person for what they did right was part of it, and
Oh
say
yes,
what you did
yes.
right, what you did right, what I appreciate about you in this conversation, how you could have done it differently. I mean, it wasn't in that order, but and that, when we did that one time,
Clearing.
a few times, that
It's called
really
clearing.
that really helped clear the situation
Yeah.
and get back on the same page. Um, and I think that's part of the yeah, the
Well,
process.
I think you're right, and I think this living out loud piece, and part of what I was getting at was, with initially talking about this, is that idea of making it right somehow, um, and the clearing thing where we just acknowledge our part, and that kind of a thing, and I know that's something that I am working on. With us, I think with us, it shows up in a very acute way sometimes. And then also when I'm with other people and working with people and creating together and stuff and learning how to, um, where I need to be more sensitive, where I need to be more appreciative, and all those kinds of things. And part of that is being willing to sit down when something doesn't look really great and to go, okay, I need to come back and let them know this is where I'm at, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I think I think if we're standing in a place of it's all a learning, you
Right.
know, it's all a learning, and yeah, it's are you willing to continue learning in your relationships? Are you willing to step into something that might not have you worked before, to try again, or to, you know, what are we willing to do to make our relationships work?
And I don't even think it's about making relationships work. For me, it's about making me work. I mean, in the sense that in order for me to move forward, I have to be one with myself and able to be one with whoever I'm with.
Well, yes.
The people I'm with, the people I'm working with, the people I'm hanging out with, and um and the tendency, the tendency, but over many years, hiding has been a pretty important part of life. in the sense of, I don't want to deal with that, push it away, don't deal with it, that kind of thing. And can't live out loud if that's what I'm doing.
All right. Well, that's, yeah. I mean, if we're living out loud, you know, we're being vulnerable, we're being open to truly what's next, what's possible, what's happening. And as we know that if we believe what we say, then there can only be love. There can only be love. So if you're coming from that place of love and you're saying what's happening for you, it can only be returned with love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and yeah, which takes us right back to the oneness because we're all here for that, you know. So
And
we are, go ahead.
oh, I just wanted to comment that Sherry made a comment a few minutes ago. He's going through something and it has nothing to do with me. And I just wanted to point out that, it's not always about he. Oh, okay. She was referring to what you were saying. That's why she said that. But she's right. And that's the key though. That idea that whoever the other person is and what their response is isn't necessarily my problem, but my problem is, did I do what I needed to do, and have I done what I needed to do to the best of my ability? And that's the thing.
Well, which totally turns your statement around, or the statement around, because that in that way it is always about us.
Right.
It is always about us, and it's about, but it's exactly about that. It goes to what we teach in our workshops. It's about committing and loving more. Can we see the love in the other relationship? Can we see the love in the whatever's happening, whatever the discussion or the problem is? Can
And
we
can we
find the
love
love?
more? Can
And
we
can
come to
we,
the love instead of the frustration and the anger and the whatever that's somehow been triggered in us in a particular spot?
right? And can we see if our partner is angry or hurt or whatever? Can we see that love then and how it's feeling uh, endangered? Or
Yeah.
it is an ongoing thing, people. Yep.
Woo!
So that's a little bit about relationship right here from New Mexico and Oakland, California. And we will be doing more. I believe we have a guest next week, but I'm just going to keep believing instead of telling you and let it be a surprise.
There you go.
So that's what we're doing. That's what we got. We're so grateful to be here. And we thank you all for listening. And we thank Wayne for joining us. And that's it. We'll see you next week right here on New Thought Media, Rockin the Love.
Hey, everybody. Thank you.